When she pulls away, the instinct for most men is to react. They feel the shift, the distance, the coldness, and immediately their mind starts racing. They want answers, they want clarity, they want to fix it before it gets worse. That reaction is understandable, but it's also exactly what locks you into an emotional power struggle you don't even realize you're in. The moment you chase, explain, or demand reassurance, you place yourself in a weaker position emotionally. You're saying, without words, that her withdrawal has power over your emotional state. And once that happens, the dynamic changes. She's no longer deciding whether she wants to reconnect. She's managing your emotions. Attraction doesn't grow there. It suffocates. Silence, when used with self respect and emotional control, immediately removes you from that struggle. You're not arguing your case. You're not trying to convince her of your value. You're not asking for attention that she's chosen to withhold. You simply step back into your center. This is not about manipulation, it's about refusing to participate in emotional chaos. When she pulls away, there's an unspoken tension created. Most men rush in to relieve that tension. When you don't, the tension stays where it belongs with the person who created it. Silence breaks the pattern she expects. If she's used to men reacting, explaining, or chasing, your calm absence disrupts her assumptions. Suddenly, there's no drama to feed on, no emotional reaction to lean against. That's when awareness begins. By staying silent, you communicate something powerful. You are not emotionally dependent on her behavior. Your mood, confidence, and direction don't collapse because someone else feels uncertain. That alone separates you from the majority. This also gives space for genuine emotions to surface for both of you. When you stop talking, stop pushing, stop reacting, the noise clears. There's no pressure, no defense, no emotional negotiation happening, just space. And space reveals truth. If she cares, silence doesn't push her away, it pulls her inward. She starts to feel the absence of your presence. She begins to notice the lack of energy, attention, and emotional safety you used to provide, not because you're punishing her, but because you're no longer overgiving. Silence also protects your dignity. You don't say things you'll regret. You don't lower your standards in a moment of fear. You don't explain yourself into a weaker position. You stay aligned with your self respect. And most importantly, silence puts you back in control of yourself. You're no longer reacting to uncertainty, you're observing it. You're allowing the situation to reveal itself rather than forcing an outcome. In relationships, the person who can remain calm in uncertainty holds the real power, not power over the other person, power over themselves. Silence doesn't end connection, it ends emotional struggle. And that's where clarity begins. When she pulls away and you stay silent, something unexpected happens inside her. Your anxiety transfers into her curiosity. Most men don't realize how predictable their reactions are. The moment distance appears, they reach out, ask questions, seek reassurance, or try to fix the situation. That predictability removes mystery, and without mystery, attraction weakens. Silence disrupts that pattern. When you don't respond the way she expects, her mind starts filling in the gaps. She begins wondering what you're thinking, what you're doing, and why you're not chasing. That mental shift is powerful because curiosity engages emotion while reassurance shuts it down. When you go silent, you're not withdrawing emotionally, you're simply refusing to react impulsively. That calm presence creates uncertainty, but not insecurity. There's a difference. Insecurity comes from fear, curiosity from interest, and interest is the seed of attraction. As time passes, her attention subtly shifts back toward you. She replays interactions. She analyzes moments. She questions her own decision to pull away, not because you pressured her, but because the absence of your emotional noise gives her space to think. Most men talk themselves out of attraction by over explaining. They reveal fear, attachment, and neediness in their words. Silence, on the other hand, allows her imagination to work in your favor. The less you say, the more she wonders. This curiosity also restores balance. Instead of you chasing clarity, she starts seeking it. Instead of you wondering where you stand, she starts wondering where she stands with you. That role reversal happens naturally when you don't rush to fill the silence. Silence also communicates confidence. Not loud confidence, quiet confidence, the kind that doesn't need validation, the kind that trusts its own worth without demanding confirmation. That energy is felt, not explained. As her curiosity grows, so does her emotional investment. She might check your social presence. She might find reasons to reach out casually. She might test the waters with small messages or indirect signals. All of this happens because your silence created space for her interest to grow instead of being smothered by reassurance. And here's the key point most men miss: curiosity doesn't arise when someone feels chased. It arises when something valuable feels uncertain. By staying silent, you allow your value to be questioned in a healthy way, not doubted, but reconsidered. This doesn't mean disappearing forever or playing games. It means allowing her to feel the natural emotional consequence of distance. If she's genuinely interested, curiosity will pull her back. If she's not, Silence saves you from wasting energy. Either way, silence works in your favor because when curiosity replaces anxiety, attraction has room to breathe, and that's where momentum returns. When you stay silent after she pulls away, you're communicating something far more powerful than words ever could: self respect. Most men believe self respect has to be announced, explained, or defended. In reality, it's demonstrated through what you tolerate and what you don't react to. Silence becomes the clearest signal that you value yourself enough not to chase attention that's being withheld. When a woman pulls back, there's often an unconscious test happening. Not a cruel one, but a revealing one. She's observing how you handle uncertainty. Do you remain grounded or do you collapse emotionally? Do you respect your own boundaries or do you abandon them the moment connection feels threatened? By staying silent, you show that you don't beg for access. You don't demand emotional availability from someone who's chosen distance. You're not punishing her and you're not trying to control the situation. You're simply choosing not to overextend yourself where effort is not being met. That choice speaks volumes. Silence tells her that your attention has value. It's not unlimited and it's not guaranteed. When attention is always available, regardless of behavior, it loses meaning. When it's offered with intention, it carries weight. This is where respect is born. Respect doesn't come from pleasing someone. It comes from maintaining your standards even when it feels uncomfortable. Most men sacrifice their standards in moments of fear. They over explain, over apologize, and over invest in hopes of restoring closeness. That behavior communicates insecurity, not care. Silence communicates calm certainty. It shows that you trust yourself enough to allow things to unfold without forcing them. That emotional restraint is rare, and rarity creates value. As she experiences your silence, she starts to reassess you, not because you're withdrawing affection, but because you're not abandoning yourself. She senses that you're emotionally stable and self-contained. You're not relying on her mood to determine your worth. This also removes emotional pressure from her. When you don't demand reassurance, she doesn't feel cornered. She doesn't feel responsible for managing your feelings. That absence of pressure allows her to think clearly rather than react defensively. Silence sets a boundary without confrontation. It says, I'm open to connection, but I won't chase it. That boundary is felt, not spoken. And boundaries that are lived, not announced, are the ones that command the most respect. Over time, this self respect either draws her back or reveals her true intentions. If she values you, she will feel the shift and respond. If she doesn't, your silence saves you from emotional depletion. Either outcome protects your dignity because self respect isn't about winning someone back, it's about never losing yourself. And that's where real strength begins. When you stay silent after she pulls away, something subtle but powerful begins to happen. She finally feels the emotional absence she created. As long as you keep reaching out, explaining yourself, or offering reassurance, she never truly experiences the distance. Your presence softens the impact of her withdrawal. Silence removes that cushion. Most men unknowingly protect women from the consequences of pulling away. They keep the emotional connection alive through effort, messages, and availability. As a result, she gets space without loss, comfort without cost, and when that happens, there's no reason for her feelings to clarify. Silence changes that immediately. When you stop filling the emotional space, the absence becomes real. She notices it in quiet moments, in the lack of messages, in the missing energy she once felt, not in a dramatic way, but in a reflective way. And reflection is where truth surfaces. This is not punishment, this is reality. You're simply allowing her to feel what distance actually means when it's no longer being compensated for by your effort. At first, space often does that, but relief fades. And once it does, awareness sets in. She starts to recognize what she stepped away from, not because you reminded her, but because the emotional environment changed. Silence forces her to sit with her own decision. There's no distraction, no emotional feedback loop, no validation coming from you, just stillness. And stillness has a way of bringing emotions to the surface. This is where many men panic and break silence too early. They confuse discomfort with danger. They think if they don't act, they'll lose her forever. But what they don't realize is that action at the wrong time often prevents clarity from forming. By staying silent, you allow her to feel the full emotional weight of her choice. If there are feelings there, they rise naturally. If there aren't, they don't. Either way, you get honesty instead of confusion. Silence also shifts responsibility back to where it belongs. You're no longer carrying the emotional burden of the relationship alone. You're no longer trying to hold things together while she pulls apart. You step back and she must decide what she wants without influence or pressure. This is healthy. Relationships aren't built on one person doing all the emotional labor. They're built on mutual effort and mutual clarity. As she feels the absence, she may start remembering moments, reevaluating interactions, or questioning whether pulling away actually brought her peace. These realizations only happen in space. They never happen when someone is chasing. Your silence gives her that space without hostility. You're not angry. You're not cold. You're simply unavailable to emotional imbalance. And here's the most important part: silence protects you. You're not bleeding emotional energy into uncertainty. You're not reliving conversations that haven't happened. You're grounded in your own life, letting reality reveal itself. If she reaches out, it's because she felt the absence and chose connection. If she doesn't, you didn't lose her, you gained clarity, because the goal was never to hold on at all costs. The goal was to be chosen. And silence is what finally allows that choice to be real. When you remain silent after she pulls away, a critical shift happens in her perception. She begins to feel that access to you is no longer guaranteed. Most men unintentionally give unlimited access to their attention, emotions, and availability, even when they're receiving very little in return. That imbalance quietly destroys attraction. Silence corrects it. When you don't chase, you send a clear signal without saying a word. You're not afraid of losing someone who isn't choosing you. That doesn't mean you don't care. It means you care enough about yourself to not abandon your standards. And that realization can trigger a powerful emotional response in her. As long as you were always there, always available, she never had to question your presence. Your attention felt permanent. And when something feels permanent, it stops being valued. Silence introduces uncertainty, not insecurity, but awareness. She starts to recognize that you have options, a life, and a direction beyond her. This is where her investment often begins to rise. Not out of fear, but out of value. She starts wondering if she may actually lose access to someone who added positivity, stability, and emotional depth to her life. That awareness makes her reassess her behavior. She may test the waters with small gestures, a casual message, a reaction, a brief check in. These aren't accidents, they're signs of renewed interest, and they happen because silence gave her space to feel the possibility of loss without being pressured. Most men sabotage this moment by responding with too much enthusiasm or emotional dumping. They break the balance again. Silence taught her that your attention is valuable. Overreaction teaches her it's still guaranteed. By remaining composed and centered, you allow her effort to grow naturally. You let her lean in. You don't rush to secure certainty. You observe actions, not words. Silence also shifts the emotional responsibility. She becomes the one wondering, the one evaluating, the one deciding whether to invest. That role reversal is powerful because attraction thrives when effort flows freely, not when it's demanded. This doesn't mean you disappear indefinitely or play games. It means you don't rush to rescue a connection that hasn't chosen you yet. You let desire rebuild at its own pace. At the same time, silence keeps you grounded. You're not waiting by the phone. You're not mentally rehearsing conversations. You're living your life. That energy is felt even at a distance. If she genuinely values you, she will step forward. If she doesn't, silence saves you from prolonged uncertainty and emotional drain. Either way, you win clarity because attraction isn't sustained by availability, it's sustained by choice. And silence is what reminds her that choosing you is a decision, not an assumption. When you stay silent after she pulls away, final most important thing that happens is clarity. Silence strips away assumptions, hope, fear, and overthinking and leaves only truth. Most men stay stuck because they keep trying to interpret mixed signals, decode behavior, and read between lines that were never meant to be clear. Silence ends that confusion. When you stop reaching out, stop explaining, and stop trying to fix things, you remove yourself from the emotional fog. You're no longer reacting to possibilities, you're observing reality. And reality always reveals itself when pressure is removed. If she genuinely cares, silence doesn't scare her away. It brings her forward. She reaches out, reopens communication, and shows effort. Not in a dramatic way, but in a real one. Her actions become consistent. Her interest becomes visible. There's no guessing. If she doesn't care enough, silence also reveals that she doesn't reach out, she stays distant. And as painful as that truth might feel, it's far healthier than living in emotional limbo, waiting for signs that never turn into action. Silence gives you answers without confrontation, no arguments, no emotional debates, no exhausting conversations trying to get someone to explain feelings they don't fully understand themselves. You simply step back and let behavior speak. This is where emotional strength is built. Instead of needing reassurance, you trust yourself enough to accept whatever outcome shows up. You stop trying to control what can't be controlled and start respecting what is. Silence also restores your focus. Your energy returns to your life, your goals, your growth. You're no longer consumed by someone else's indecision. That shift alone raises your confidence and self-worth. Many men fear silence because they believe action equals control, but real control comes from restraint, from knowing when to step back instead of pushing forward blindly. By staying silent, you're not giving up. You're standing still long enough for the truth to catch up. And once the truth is clear, you can move forward with confidence, whether that means reconnecting or letting go. There's no regret either way because you didn't betray yourself in the process. Silence doesn't guarantee reconciliation, it guarantees self respect. And when you protect that, you never truly lose, no matter the outcome.